March 2016, we started with $356,000 in debt. By the 9 months later, so by the end of that year, we had paid off $61,000 in debt. By the following year, we had paid off, I believe it was $51,000. We got divorced shortly thereafter. So to date, as of November 29, 2019, I have paid off $256,000 of my $356,000. So I only have $100,000 left to pay.
You're listening to Nurses on Fire, the podcast for nurses by nurses aspiring to financial independence. I'm your host, Naseema McElroy of Financially Intentional. Let's spark some flames, y'all. Have you gone to the grocery store a million times this week and still forgot the onion? Don't trip. Instacart's got your back. Get local fresh groceries delivered right to your front door in as fast as an hour. No need to stress like I do when I send my boyfriend to the store for apples and half of them are bruised. Every item is hand selected by shoppers to your personal preference. And check this, you can shop from multiple stores in one order. Instacart also looks out for your pockets by highlighting deals to help you save money. Get unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. To start your 14-day free trial, click the link in the show notes to let Instacart know that I sent you and to help support the show.
Hi, welcome to episode 24 of the Nurses on Fire podcast.
Welcome back to my Ride or Die listeners. And if this is your first time listening, thank you so much for tuning in. I'd be super duper grateful if you took a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share with other nurses that you know can benefit. And know that when you leave a review, we are running a contest for our first 100 reviews over at nursesonfirepodcast.com/win. I am going to read a review left from one of my good friends. Thank you so much, Kelly, for leaving this review. The review reads, Naseema is my inspiration. I had the privilege of going to nursing school with Naseema at UCSF, so I knew her back in the day. I loved her positivity, sense of humor, commitment to patients, and willingness to jump into anything. A mutual friend from nursing school told me about Naseema's podcast, and I am so glad she did. I had been passively saving money and had not looked into most of the things Naseema talks about. Now she has me on a mission to be intentional with our finances. I'm reading books and listening to podcasts she recommends on her website and have a to-do list of everything we need to do to put ourselves on a successful path. I also really appreciate hearing from other nurses who have really thought outside the box to live their best life. I was never taught any of this growing up, and I am so grateful to Naseema for her mission to level out the playing field so that we can all have this knowledge. Naseema, you rock. You rock even more, Kelly, and thank you so much for that review. Again, if you guys are getting any value from the podcast and you want to share a review, believe me, it helps others discover the podcast. It helps us get the word out, and it helps other nurses see what's possible because, like Kelly said, we were not taught this stuff. So if you guys want to leave a review, leave a rating, please do over on Apple Podcasts. And if you want to learn how to win a $50 Amazon gift card, go over to the nursesonfirepodcast.com website and learn about the contest I'm running at nursesonfire.com/win. So I am super excited for you guys to learn about our next guest, Crystal Grant. Crystal was born in Western Massachusetts, the youngest and only daughter of Ollie and Harry Grant. Crystal attended private Catholic grade school and was a part of the first graduating class of the High School of Science and Technology. In 1998, Crystal moved to North Carolina to attend college and graduated with her Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina. She began her nursing career in the Medical Surgical Intensive Care Unit at Rex Hospital in Raleigh, North Carolina. Over the next 8 years, Crystal worked as a registered nurse before deciding to go back and obtain her Master's of Science in Nurse Anesthesia. In 2010, Crystal graduated with her MSN from Rutgers University in Newark, New Jersey. She began her CRNA career in Western Massachusetts and has been practicing in a number of areas and settings since. She is a business owner, a dog mom, a friend, an aunt, and a passionate travel enthusiast. In her spare time, Crystal enjoys going to the beach, reading, writing, and long walks with her 2 dogs. Without further ado, episode 24, this nurse is a 6-figure CRNA. All right. I'm super honored to have Crystal Grant join us on the Nurses on Fire podcast. Hey, Crystal.
Hi.
Can you please tell the community what you're all about?
Okay, yes. So hello, Nurses on Fire. Thank you so much for having me, Naseema. My name is Crystal Grant, like you said, and I am a certified registered nurse anesthetist. I've been practicing nursing for 17 years. And when I went back to CRNA school in 2010, I graduated with over $208,000 in student loans. So that's why I'm on this podcast.
Wow. So I see. Yeah, when you graduated, just from that, it was $180,000 in student loans, bringing your total debt up to almost $400,000, right?
Well, okay. So my total debt was $356,000 when I graduated. Now, that included credit cards that I used to kind of get through school. That included a home that I had purchased prior to starting school. It included some cars that I financed and did not buy outright. So I was doing a lot of very immature and irresponsible things with my finances in my 20s. I was reckless.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that it sounds kind of reckless now in hindsight, but when you're in your 20s, you're just doing what people expect you to do or what you're expected to do,
Exactly.
right? It's not like you were doing extraordinary things, like crazy off the wall things. You were just doing what you were told to do. You were told to get a new car, you were told to buy a
Mm-hmm.
house. Like these are societal norms, right?
Right. This is what society.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get into that later.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So one of the big things I get is people like, and I think it's funny because you had $180,000 in student loan debt,
Mm-hmm.
and that's exactly how much I had.
Oh,
So we're
wow.
on the same page there. And then another thing I forgot to mention is CRNA is like
Mm-hmm.
my dream job. If I was ever to go back to school to be a nurse, I would totally be a CRNA because I love what the nurse anesthetists get to do, but I don't think I'm smart enough.
Oh, no. You know what's funny is I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I had enough experience. Imposter syndrome, I guess, is what they're labeling this as nowadays. But I
Mhm.
had a lot of those doubts as well. So I'm sure you're much smarter than you think, especially if you became debt free. You're already smarter than the majority of people. So I think you could do it.
Well, yes, that is definitely a limiting belief I have to overcome. But I don't think I'll
Yes.
ever go back to school, so that's not going to happen unless I could be a CRNA another way.
Yeah, that's the thing too. If I had to redo it again, I would not be going back to school either.
So let's talk a little bit more about your trajectory of becoming a nurse and then
Mhm.
into being a CRNA.
Okay, so actually, I started out as a physician assistant major at a private college down in North Carolina. I'm originally from Massachusetts. And I always loved going to North Carolina. My mother's side of my family is from there. So we would often go down there for the summers. I knew I wanted to go to in North Carolina. So I already was preparing my parents for out-of-state tuition. My mother got very sick right after I graduated high school, and she ended up passing away shortly thereafter. Right before she passed away, I had begged her to transfer colleges because I wasn't happy at the first college I was attending as a PA major. So against her better judgment, she, kind of said yes. And I transferred to North Carolina A&T State University in Greensboro, North Carolina. And they did not have a physician assistant program. I could have either chosen to maybe be a biology major or chemistry major. But at that time, it was pretty much known that my mother was going to pass on within the next year or so. So I really needed something, one, that I knew I would have a job in, and two, that I could achieve within those 4 years of college, essentially. So I went ahead and chose nursing, and I was accepted into their nursing program, and I graduated in 2002 with my BSN from North Carolina A&T State. After that, I got a job in the intensive care unit. I had actually heard about the career of nurse anesthetist while in nursing school, but it was a very short blurb in a nursing 101 course that I was taking. It wasn't very highlighted, and nobody really talked about it other than it was like the cream of the crop, job that you could be as a nurse. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, I had really originally thought about PA, and if this is the highest that I can go into nursing, perhaps I'll do what I need to do in order to become a CRNA. So once I graduated, I did get a job in the medical intensive care unit at Rex Hospital in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I took my GRE and, I got my ICU experience. And about 18 months in, I decided I'm not smart enough to be a CRNA. I'm going to go do travel nursing. So I'm not joking when I say I really did, I did not think I was smart enough. And also, looking back because it's been 15 years ago, mentally, I just wasn't in a good headspace. I was very sad. I was very depressed. My mother had died. I was 500 miles away from my family, and it was really hard for me. So at the time, I was dating this guy, and he broke up with me. So I decided to do travel nursing. And traveling was great. Back then they paid for your housing and all you had to essentially do was go to work. So I didn't have any bills really back then. And that's kind of when it all started going downhill because
it seems like that was like when things got better, right? You was like, I didn't have any bills, but no, it went downhill.
Because, we're sold this ideal that, if you have this income coming in, the money has to be going towards something. And especially in my 20s, this is prior to podcasts, and this is prior to YouTube, and the information that we have now was not nearly as accessible back in the early 2000s. We're talking flip phones and unlimited minutes after 7 p.m. era. It wasn't like it was now. So the people that I did follow financially were like Susie Orman. And we know that Susie Orman, she speaks about having a high FICO score and, buy, and, keep your credit card balance at this. So I was very much about having a high credit score. And having a high credit score means that you owe a lot of people money.
True.
Which is what I've learned now. I didn't know that then. So I bought the cars and I got the credit cards and, I made the minimum payments and, never missed the payment. But I really wasn't investing my money in my 20s like I wish I had. And so that's why I'm so passionate about speaking about it now, because I look back and I'm like, oh, I made a lot of money and I had nothing to show for it, essentially. I really wasn't saving. I had kind of thrown out the idea of becoming a CRNA. So I actually went to nurse practitioner school instead. And eventually after I think it was about 4 or 5 years, I realized that probably wasn't going to be fulfilling to me because that wasn't my original dream.
So you actually went to school and did your FNP, your nurse practitioner.
I was actually in an adult nurse practitioner program, and I did everything except for the clinical aspect. So all I had to do was the 2 semesters of clinical, I believe. I had done all the didactic work for the program before deciding I was going to give the CRNA thing a shot. So by now, I had been a nurse for 8 years when I decided that.
So you just decided that even though you took all your classes, that you just didn't want to do the FNP. So,
Yeah.
and you know why I'm saying it like that is because I was almost like that. I almost gave up in my
Mhm.
FNP program. It was just because
Mhm.
of the politics of the school that I was going to was a horrible environment. And I was just like, you
Mhm.
know what? I make enough money as a nurse. I really don't need this. And I think it traumatized me so much. It's one of the reasons why, like now I'm an FNP, but I have never used that degree. I finished the degree because people begged me to, but I never
Mhm.
used it because the program
Oh,
was so horrible. I had such a horrible experience. But
that's
but
unfortunate.
nevertheless, I still had to pay off those loans associated with that.
Yes. Yeah, they don't care if you use it or not. They want their money back.
Exactly. So then you didn't complete your clinicals, but you had those units. Did any of those units transfer over to your CRNA program?
They actually did. So I actually applied to 7 programs and I went on 6 interviews, or maybe it was 6 programs and 5 interviews. I really, honestly, it was so long ago, I kind of get that number confused. It was either 6 or 7, but I know one school didn't interview me. I never heard from them actually, so I don't know what happened. But yes, I was able to transfer over, I believe it was 9 credit hours, so I didn't have to take like theory, pharm, A&P maybe. So my first semester of CRNA school, once I finally did get in, I was only taking 1 course.
So you were saying, like in your first semester of CRNA school, you only had to take
Correct.
one
Yes.
class while everyone else had like a full course
Yeah,
load.
because the rest of my stuff had transferred over. But I decided, so I got into CRNA school in northern New Jersey. I went to Rutgers University. And so I had to move from North Carolina to New Jersey, North Jersey. I prefaced that it was North Jersey because North Jersey is similar to New York City prices when you're talking about rent and things. So here I was leaving Greenville, North Carolina, where my mortgage was, I don't know, $800 a month. And then I moved to North Jersey and I rented a bedroom for $800. So it was, yeah. And I had not saved any money. So I worked all those years as a traveling nurse and I hadn't saved 1 penny for school. So I ended up taking out all loans to go back to school and to live off of.
So many people have been where you've been. I mean, like when I started on my journey, I was like, I'd been making 6
Mhm.
figures for years, but I did not have
Mhm.
$100 in my
Yeah.
savings account. So
Yeah.
don't feel bad. You're
Yeah.
not the only one. And just in general, most Americans aren't set up to be able to finance or pay for a $400 emergency. They don't have enough savings for even a $400 emergency. So, don't feel bad.
No.
We've all been there, but that's why this podcast
Exactly.
exists, to show people that it does not have to be like that.
There
There is a better
absolutely
way.
is. And I'm so glad, for people like you. And, I'm sure we'll talk about him later, but for Dave Ramsey, had I not found Dave Ramsey and learned his teachings, I'm sure I would still be, severely depressed with $356,000 or more worth of debt by now. So I'm very grateful for the people who do speak about it, including myself. I speak a lot about it now because it's something we're not taught. It's something that I believe society doesn't want us to know how to do because it's modern day slavery if you just go to work for 70 years of your life, So no thanks.
All of that is so true. We're set up to be
Mhm.
consumers. We're not set up to be smart about our money. And so that's why there's so few people talking
Mhm.
about this stuff. But hopefully we'll spread the message and get more and more people
Yay.
aware, because things have got to change if we want to do better as a society. I mean, like we're losing our place, I feel, in the world as a superpower because we are so much a consumerist culture and we're not focused on enriching each other. And I feel like we're going to really see the impact of that in a couple of
Absolutely. actually, there's another recession coming, which I'm sure you know, and it's going to hit the people who have these student loans, these astronomical student loans. They can't get jobs or, good paying jobs. And the accumulation of the interest on these loans and the capitalization of the interest on these loans is making people poor. I mean, they're living at poverty levels with bachelor's and master's and doctorate degrees, and it's very sad.
It is sad, and definitely
Mhm.
recession is coming. And basically, what we need to understand is recessions
Mhm.
always come. Like even when they talk about
Mhm.
economic cycles, like you're always either in a recession or
Right.
you're in a recovery, and we're in a
Right.
recovery right now. So we're about to hit that very soon, and this is one of the longest recoveries that we've experienced in the history of, just U.S. history. Period. So we need to understand that we need to
Mhm.
prepare ourselves for this. But,
Yep.
with this information that we talk about, these are some ways, and we'll get into some ways that we can do that later on. But let's go back to your story where you're in CRNA school at this point.
Yes. So I'm in CRNA school in North Jersey, and I had not prepared for it, like I said. So I didn't have any savings. It was actually when the recession hit, speaking of recessions. So I had purchased this home in Greenville, North Carolina in March 2007. And we all know what came literally right after that was this recession. So here I was purchasing this home thinking, oh, I can do like all my other nursing friends in their 20s. I can have this house for a year or two and turn around and sell it. No problem. Literally, all my friends were doing this. I was like the last one. So, yeah, I buy my house March 2007 and boom, recession hits. They stopped building in my cul-de-sac area and you could not get a personal loan. You couldn't get anything. It was like the banks were closed. So when I decided to go to CRNA school, in the back of my mind, I had been thinking, oh, I'll just, take out loans like you always do. So when I applied, the only thing at first that I was able to get was the Stafford loans. And the Stafford loans only cover, I believe it's 20,500 per semester. Well, that wasn't going to cover the cost of me to attend and live. So I didn't know how I was going to pay for the rest of my program until I was offered a Grad Plus loan. And the Grad Plus loans are what covered the remaining cost of my program and for me to live. So now I have this house that I need to still pay for or get renters into. I have a car that I did never paid off. Like I was just so ill prepared. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know. That's why I speak so much about it now. Like get your stuff in order before you go back to school and it'll be one less stressor that you have to worry about once you're in. So all of my loans that I took out were paying for these things plus my tuition, room and board and for me to eat essentially. So they added up very quickly each semester. And about 6 months prior to the end of my program, you don't get any more money. The last summer, yeah, it's like that's it. Like there's no more money. So you have to
Mhm.
make it like the last semester with what you were given the prior summer. And I didn't account for that. So I actually ran out of money 6 months before the
Oh,
end of my
wow.
program. Yeah. And like I was passing, but I didn't have any money. So what do you do? And luckily, I had this very sweet classmate. She was a lifesaver. She loaned me money and I was able to finish my program. If it wasn't for her, yeah, I don't know what I would do. And that is the God's honest truth. She literally saved me. So I'm still to this day, I always tell her how much I appreciate her.
She's an angel.
She's amazing. She really is. Like, just thinking about it, I'm just like, oh my gosh, she saved me. She did.
Wow.
Yeah, I did. Yep, I finished, and then I moved back to Massachusetts and had already taken a job, but you can't start working until you pass your boards. So I literally had, I believe I had $500 in my bank account when I moved back from New Jersey to Massachusetts, and I studied for boards for 6 weeks. Now, with that $500, I had to pay my car note because I still hadn't paid my car off. I had to pay the balance of my mortgage because I did have renters, but their rent didn't cover the full amount of my mortgage. And I had, like, my bills were due, like my credit card and everything. And I had $500 to my name. So I studied for boards because that was, I can't do anything until I graduate. So those things were just going to have to wait. So I studied for boards, sat for my boards. That was the hardest test I've ever taken. And I'm a good test taker. So I don't know what test they gave me still to this day. But I walked out of there crying and I had passed. And then it took another 4 weeks or so before all my credentialing and paperwork went through with my new job before I could even start working. And then it was another 2 weeks once I started working until I got my first paycheck. So I literally had no money for like 3 months after graduating. So luckily my niece took me in. Her and her now ex-husband and their 5-year-old daughter. I slept in my 5-year-old great niece's bed as a CRNA because I was broke.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was the turning point that made you say, like, listen, I am sick and tired of being broke? Like, if that wasn't it, like, I don't know what it could be because
that
it
wasn't
seemed like
it.
no.
Girl, I still have more debt to get into. No, I wasn't done yet. Not quite. So after I graduated, I actually lived with her for about 3 more months before I was finally back on my feet. I paid my classmate back. I had taken out a payday loan. I was just, again, messy with my money. Started working, got my own place. And then I bought a BMW, leased a BMW for like $800 a month. Girl.
Like you should, yes. For the same price as your
I was going to
mortgage,
say,
right?
not with $208,000 worth of student loans, you should not. But actually, it wasn't $208,000, so it was $180,000 in student loans. And I decided, well, I'm never going to pay that back. You have your student loans forever. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get my DNP, and I'll put those on deferment for right now.
Girl.
I told you I had more debt to get into.
Wow.
So again, I did a couple of semesters of my DNP, took out, I can't remember, 10,000 maybe for that. And then I had met a guy by then and he's like, why are you going back for this? Like, is it going to change anything? Are you going to get a raise? And I was like, no. So he was like, is this what you really want to do? And I was like, no, not really. So I ended up not proceeding with my DNP after the second semester. So now we're up to $190,000 or so in student loans, plus the interest. So when my breaking point was after I got married, and we were making, probably like $205,000 a year combined or something like that. And we were living paycheck to paycheck. We had no money. And if we did, looking back, I see we did have money. I just wasn't managing our money well. So we were literally living paycheck to paycheck. And the debt was I was like, well, let's get another credit card because it's a 0%, balance transfer. And if we do that, then I can transfer this. Never thought about just sitting down and actually paying the debt off. Didn't even know how to do that. So I was just we were just digging ourselves into more and more debt. And finally, one day I was at work and I was just like, I'm worth more dead than alive right now. My life insurance policy, if I die right now, is X amount, but I'm worth negative $300 and something thousand right now alive. Like, how is that life? And I make good money, And so sat down with one of my coworkers and she's like, oh, something, Dave Ramsey. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. What's he really talking about? And she's like, no, you should listen to him. So went home, listened to his podcast, and we were like, well, let's try it.
I'm known as a debt slayer because of the $200,000 in student loans I slayed in 2.5 years. I hated those loans and dealing with the loan servicers. I was head down and focused and wanted to get rid of the debt as soon as possible. Knocking out these loans and seeing a zero loan balance was one of the most liberating feelings I have ever felt. But recently I learned that by not optimizing my student loan payoff strategy, I lost money. I'm talking about big money, y'all. I could have saved $80,000 if I had a customized student loan plan by the team at Student Loan Planner. Please don't make the same mistake as me. If you have student loan debt, especially in the six figures, head over to studentloanplanner.com/financially intentional to get your customized student loan plan today. Do you know how your retirement funds are invested? Do you know how much you're paying in fees? Chances are you're on the same boat as some of my coworkers. Some of them set up their retirement when they first got hired and never looked at it again. Some have let a computer select their investments and don't even know what they're invested in. Worst of all, some people have their retirement funds sitting in a savings account and they're not even invested in the market because they're afraid to lose money. That's hella scary, y'all. What's even scarier is that some of you listening don't even have a clue what I'm talking about. And guess what? This is super common. This has to change today. Let Bloom do the work for you. Head over to financiallyintentional.com/Bloom and get your free retirement account analysis. They'll check and see if your retirement account is optimized for you, and they'll let you know if you're paying too much in fees. That's Bloom with 3 O's. Bloom can also manage your retirement account on an ongoing basis so you can take the stress out of retirement planning. If you choose to work with Bloom, their fees are incredibly low, less than your Netflix subscription. You have enough to worry about. Let Bloom handle your retirement account. The hardest thing you'll have to do when it comes to your retirement is remember that Bloom is spelled with 3 O's. Head over to financiallyintentional.com/Bloom. Remember, spelled with 3 O's, and get your retirement account squared away today.
And that was March 2016. We started with $356,000 in debt. By the 9 months later, so by the end of that year, we had paid off $61,000 in debt.
Wow.
By the following year, we had paid off, I believe it was $51,000. We got divorced shortly thereafter. And so I was hit with, some stuff I had to pay for as far as that went. And I was hit with the
I know a lot about that. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And I had to pay a very large tax bill of about $17,000 on my own. And I also had surgery that year. So I was out of work for about 8 weeks. So I had to save for that surgery.
Wow.
So to date, as of November 29, 2019, I have paid off $256,000 of my $356,000. So I only have $100,000 left to pay.
Woo, girl! Congratulations! I'm telling you, oh my God, the finish line is so close, and you just started in 2016. That is crazy.
I can't wait.
I love it. Yes, and girl, once you get under that $100,000, it just melts away. It's gonna go so fast.
I can't wait. I've actually challenged myself.
I'm so excited for you.
Girl, you and me both. I've challenged myself on Instagram, so all my Instagram followers know that I'm giving myself 12 months to pay this off. So I'm selling stuff. I've become, I won't say a minimalist, but once you start journeys like this, I attribute it also to the same as weight loss. You really just see where your needs versus your wants are separated. So we need water, we need food, we need transportation to and from work, we need clothes on our back. Everything else is just an extra. So when you're really gung-ho, I'm gung-ho, I am full gazelle intent, as Dave Ramsey would say, I've been selling stuff that I don't wear anymore. I mean, you just go back to the basics and I am fine. Like, I don't want for anything. I have everything that I need, truly. And the sooner I get this debt paid off, the sooner I'll be free and can actually breathe and help others like I really, really want to. So
you're already there. You're already helping so many people. But man, that debt freedom is like nothing else, especially from these student loans. Lord, I hated them.
yeah.
Lord, I'll never again, never again.
Mm-mm,
So
mm-mm.
you talked about using Dave Ramsey's program. Can you speak specifically about what you did and you like what tools specifically you used to pay down your debt?
So I only listened to his podcast. I never purchased any of his books or other items that he sells. I listened to his podcast on my iPhone for free every day for a year straight, to work, from work. Everywhere I went, he was playing in the background. It got to the point where when callers would call into his show and start asking a question, I'd be like, oh, girl, no, he's going to tell you no. Like before he could even like answer the people's questions, I was already answering them. So I did that. I went to the library and got his Total Money Makeover book. But by then I had listened to him so much that reading the book, it was the same information. I actually felt like the podcast was more detailed. And then a friend of mine who had done Dave Ramsey, she let me borrow his Financial Peace University CDs. And at the time I had my BMW, and so you could store the CDs. So I stored each CD kind of in the, I don't know what it's called, in the system, the BMW system. And I was able to play and listen to his Financial Peace University course. But I did not buy one thing of his. I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying how I did it. And we wrote out a budget when we first started. Like I said, I was married. We wrote out a budget of, how much our mortgage was, how much cars cost, how much my stepson at the time cost. We wrote everything out and we did a cash envelope system for anything that wasn't a household need. So the way I still kind of do it the same. You write down all of your expenses, and then like my hair, I take out cash and I put it in an envelope because my hair costs the same every 5 weeks. If you get your nails done.
Love your hair, by the way, girl.
Thank you. The dogs, we know that the dogs, their food costs the same, every 6 weeks. So we would account for each of these things so that nothing was a surprise. You're not at the grocery store, you're not at the mall and saying, oh my God, I need a new pair of jeans. Well, do you have money in your cash envelope for that pair of jeans? So we kind of lived by that system. It was great at first, and then it got to this point where it just sucked. And we were like, man, I miss going to the movies. I miss, just whatever. I don't even know because I don't even do anything anymore. But like I miss going out to eat, or I miss whatever. So we actually paused it for a while, and then we got divorced. So I don't know what came first, but after we got divorced, I got back on track because all the rest of the debt was mine. And so I was like, I need to get this paid off. And that's the system I pretty much live on. Each month, I budget out my costs. I've gotten my cost of living so low that essentially I only have to work like 3 days a month just to live, if that makes sense. Everything else goes towards student loan debt. And then once that's paid, everything else will go wherever I want it to go. Investing.
Love it. That sounds like almost like a 70 to 90% savings rate right there. That's phenomenal. So
a 70 to 90% raise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You basically use like zero-based budgeting, like where every one of your dollars had an assignment.
Correct.
And then you use the cash envelope system.
Correct.
Yes. So those are some incredible tools, and those are the tools that I also use in paying down my debt and things that super easy to implement that anybody can do. And even if you don't feel safe carrying around cash, now there's like digital envelopes and all kind of things that you can use. So that's not an excuse, but these systems work. These systems totally work. So Were you 100% like gung ho on Dave Ramsey? Like, did you pause your investments at work, or had you even started investing?
Yes, I did pause my retirement at that time. And I'm trying to think because we were married. So what else did we do? We didn't go out to eat. We actually saved up a couple $1,000s. We brought my leased BMW back 6 months early, paid off the remaining part of the lease, and then bought a $2,000 Honda Accord, like a 97 Honda Accord.
I was gonna ask you if you kept that BMW.
It was beautiful, but I was tired of literally throwing my money out the window. Like that's what I was doing, $700 a month each month. And when we brought it back to the BMW dealership, they didn't understand. They were like, "What do you mean you want to bring it back early?" And I was like, "Yeah, I don't I don't want it anymore. Like I'm good." And they were like, "Yeah, but you still have 6 months." I said, "Here's a check for the rest of the 6 months." And they're like, "No, but you can keep it." No, I don't want it, sir. Take it back. Take it. Okay, I'm gonna go get this Honda Accord down the street. And we're good, sir. Thank you. So they were actually it's like we talked about, like that's not what people do. Like Dave Ramsey said, if you're not being weird and doing weird stuff, then, you're just like everyone else. So it was a very weird thing. They did not understand it. They tried to get me into something else while we were
Of
there.
course. Yes.
So yeah, we did that. I have 2 dogs and I was spoiling them quite a bit. They were going to doggy daycare and, they were getting new sweaters and all this stuff. And we cut back drastically on that. But they do have their own envelopes and they get cash for their envelopes because they are an expense. So there's never a surprise. I won't say never, but there's really no surprises for me. And if there is a surprise, then I have an emergency fund. And that's part of the Dave Ramsey baby steps. That's the first baby step, is to have an emergency fund of $1,000 so that you can buy a new washing machine on Labor Day weekend when your washing machine goes out.
Right. But also, when you know where your money is going,
Mm-hmm.
you can cash flow a lot of
Yes.
things. You just know what you need to move around.
Yes.
Like, because you already know that you're allocating so much money towards your debt payments.
Yep.
But instead of maybe like if you have a catastrophe this month, it's not going to be hard for you to cash flow something that's a couple $1,000
Correct.
this month and kind of delay that
Correct.
debt payoff.
Yep.
But I mean, without even touching your emergency fund.
Yep.
But what most people do, because they don't even have that, they don't know what's coming in and going out, they go and spend on credit cards and
Yep.
go into even more debt. And
Even
so
more debt.
it's
Yep.
super important to make sure that, people look at budgeting as a cuss word, but really a budgeting is your money plan. It's
Mhm.
telling your money where to go, and
Yep.
it's giving you permission to spend. It's your spending plan. You
Mhm.
guys, it's not deprivation. It's like, okay, now you know what you have and you know what you can do with it. And so it's super powerful to be in control of your money. And if it makes you feel better not to call it a budget, so be it. But it's super essential in making sure that you do better with your finances.
And it's so interesting to see. So I've been preaching about it so much on Instagram that I do budgets for people now. And a lot of people have much more money than they think they do at the end of each month. And I just literally, I can look at the numbers for the most part. I've yet to have anybody's budget that I've done and I say, "Ooh, I don't know what you're going to do." Everybody, 100% of the time, they have more money than they think they do. I just tell it where to go.
Yes.
And I'm even kind of nice with it. I've given people like Christmas budgets with, Dave Ramsey is like, "No, nobody's getting anything if you're in
Right.
debt." But no, I'll be like, "No, go ahead and budget for this. It will come out of this paycheck. This is how it looks." And every single one of them is like, "Oh my God, I didn't know I had that much money, or I never thought to look at it this way." And I said, "I know, I was you. I had no idea what I was doing with my money." So I actually think it's fun now. I love budgeting. I try to see where I can pinch pennies even tighter.
Right. It's a challenge. It's like a fun challenge. Yeah. Gamify it.
Yes. So I love doing budgets.
I think it's funny because when I first started, I used to be like, well, like once I started doing my budget, like I found all this money, and people were just like, I mean, like, how do you just find money? I mean, you literally like
Mm-hmm.
find money you didn't even know you had,
Mm-hmm.
because you have no idea what you're spending your money on
Yep.
until you just like sit down and be like, you know what, like all those mindless trips to fast food restaurants, to
Yep.
Target, which is just a money pit, like all those places where you don't consciously spend your money, like even extra stuff at Costco and all that stuff,
Yep.
like you don't
Starbucks.
consciously know. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yes, you don't consciously know where your money is going, and then you're just like, oh well, dang, like that's a lot of
Of
money that
money.
I'm just throwing away.
Yep. Especially if you're swiping. If you're just mindlessly handing a card over or putting it in the machine or whatever, it's not making an emotional connection like cash does. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a restaurant with a group of people and they all put their cards down, and here I am with my cash. 1, 2, 3, and they're laughing. They're like, Crystal, you carry cash? I'm like, yes, I do. And that's how I've paid off $256,000 of debt so far. And their ears perk up and they're like, what do you mean? I'm like,
Hmm.
because I know where my money's going. I know how much this turkey burger just cost me too. How much is your bill? And they're like, I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I love that you share that you help people with their budgets. Can
hmm
you share with our audience what other things you have? What are you working on?
So I am an author. So I wrote a book about my journey of becoming a nurse anesthetist and just how to do it, what the qualifications and specifications are, what it was like for myself, as well as a few other people that I kind of interviewed for the book. So that is available on Amazon. It's called Acceptance Granted, One Woman's Journey to Becoming a CRNA. And then I also just recently released my second book, which it's not really a book. It's called My Net Worth Journal. And it's speaking about net worth. It's speaking about how to budget, and it gives you an outline on how to do a budget, how to do the cash envelope system. Because if I do it for you, I'm going to charge you a whole lot more. But if you buy this journal for $11, you can figure it out yourself. But no, it's just, it's educating the people about what an asset is versus a liability. What does net worth even mean? I did not know this word until I was 35 years old. I didn't know that I had a net worth. I thought only famous people did. I didn't know what an asset was over a liability. I thought having a car payment meant I owned that car. No, the bank does. So just it touches on that, and then it just helps you break down a budget. And so that is also available on Amazon.com, my net worth journal. So that's what I have going on.
I'll have those linked up. I'll have the book and the Net Worth Journal linked up in the show notes. So you guys don't have to worry about trying to write it down or to rush over to Amazon right now. You can just click over to on the link in the show notes.
Yes. And then I help people with budgets, but that's, if you need help with budget, find me on Instagram. I'm sure Naseema will also link me there, and I'm happy to help. But once you do it a couple times, it really becomes second nature. And like I said, it actually becomes kind of fun.
It is fun. But, I do want people to know, like, a lot of times people are like, oh my God, I've tried to budget and it never works. But
Mm-hmm.
typically it does take
Mm-hmm.
about 3 months of doing it consistently on average
Mm-hmm.
for you to get comfortable with it. I mean, I know it took me about that long to get comfortable with it. So give yourself some grace. But know that,
Yes,
yeah, it totally is fun. It's super fulfilling to me to complete my budget
it
every
really
month.
is.
As nerdy as that might sound,
I
but I
was
mean,
like, we are some nerds.
for real.
And what's funny is I never liked math growing up. I wasn't terrible in math. It just didn't always click with me. And I remember getting like tutors for algebra and trig. But to me, that a budget is different. Like those numbers just make sense to me.
But Crystal, you cannot be bad at math and be a CRNA, okay? That's like the biggest thing. I want to be back from being a
When
CRNA,
I
okay?
say math, I mean like, like trig and like a calculus and all that stuff. I'm not using that in the operating room. But the budgeting numbers, they just make sense. I don't know if it's because I've been doing it for 3.5 years now, but when I tell people, I say, listen, baby, I'm going to pull this budget all the way in. Okay. Like how a waist trainer pulls your waist all the way in, I'm going to pull this budget in. So be prepared. And for the most part, though, I'm not terrible. Like I'll tell people they're doing some ridiculous stuff. I'm like, okay, you're spending $900 a month on food. So that's going to stop. and
Right.
But they can do whatever they want. They can try it out for a month or two and have great progress, or they can keep doing what they're doing and then, still be in debt. So give it a shot. Yeah.
Those are some awesome parting words, and I want to give you an opportunity to just impart any other further knowledge that you think our audience could benefit from, and then we're going to just close things out.
I will say if you are trying to go back to school, I'll focus on that, but this can kind of be applied to anything you're doing in life, especially with, like we said, the recession coming up. Pay off your debts, get on a budget, pay off your debts lowest to highest. That's another thing I didn't touch on, but list your debts lowest to highest. I use the debt snowball method, not the debt avalanche. If you don't know the two, one is by interest rate, that's the debt avalanche. The other is by amount of debt, that's the debt snowball. So pay off your debts, have an emergency fund. Even if it's only $500 to $1,000, have something in a interest-bearing savings account that you can quickly get access to in case of an emergency. And then pay your debts off. Live below your means. If you make $50,000 a year, live like you only make $25,000, $30,000 a year. Don't go buying new cars. A new car depreciates as soon as you drive it off the lot. Do not buy a new car. Buy a used car. Buy a used reliable vehicle. I love CarMax. I've been to CarMax 4 different times to purchase used vehicles. It's a no pressure place. So whether you buy or not, they don't hound you like some other dealerships. But please don't buy a brand new car. I mean, honestly, just live below your means. I'll be outright. I make well over $200,000 a year, and I live off about $40,000 a year.
Wow.
That's how low I've gotten my cost of living, and I'm not starving. My hair is done. I don't get my nails done. I do get pedicures, though. You know what I'm saying? Like
You're not living in deprivation like most people think.
No,
Like,
not at all.
it doesn't
Not at
really
all.
take that much to live,
Yeah.
once you understand
Yeah.
your numbers.
Yeah. I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in years. I live a simple life, but I'm very happy. I don't long for much. If I do want to take a trip, I'll take a trip. But I have gotten myself to a place financially where I can do that. And I always pay for my trips outright. Like I don't charge my trips. I don't even have a credit card. I closed all my credit card accounts back in 2017 because I'm not one of those people that can like pay for gas and then pay off the credit card each month. I can't. Don't give me a credit card. I'm not responsible enough.
Know thyself. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I know myself. I know my limits, and giving me a piece of plastic with a $25,000 credit limit on it is not something that, don't do that. No. So, just live below your means, really. Live like your grandparents did. They didn't buy something unless they had saved up for it. They didn't swipe. They didn't do Apple Pay. They didn't do PayPal and all that stuff. If they didn't have the money for it, they didn't buy it.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, it's because we live in this instant gratification, must have. You have to buy all these things for your kids and all that stuff. And it's not necessary. So
if you go to third world countries, which, I mean, not even the third world, if you go to Puerto Rico, I went to Puerto Rico in September. It's been almost 2 years since the hurricane hit, and there's still a lot of places that are very desolate and in a lot of need. And when you see people walking, no shoes or one flip flop and one sneaker, because that's all they could find, it just makes you realize, like us, especially as Americans, we are like so fortunate. And I think we take a lot of things for granted. The fact that we have running water and clothes on our back is a blessing that millions of people don't even have. So When you start just thinking like that, and it's all this other stuff is not necessary. It's really not, especially if you're thousands of dollars in debt. Get your finances straight and then pay yourself first. Invest in yourself. Get your net worth up. That's what it's about. And then give back.
Exactly. It's all about those freedoms that getting in control of your finances affords you. So thank you so much, Crystal, for joining us.
Thank you.
I will make sure to link up your Instagram profile and your books, Acceptance Granted, and your net worth journal in the show notes. Again, I want to express how much I appreciate you for taking the time out of your day, for joining us, and everything that you have shared with us has been super valuable.
You're welcome. And I'd love to send you a journal, and maybe we can give one away as well to a listener. So we can chat about that afterwards. Yeah.
Definitely. All right, you guys, you heard it here. We'll give you an opportunity to get a journal. So stay tuned for details about that. So thanks again. Crystal was such a great guest, and I am really rooting for her to pay off her debt over the next 12 months. So 2020 will be her year. If you guys aren't following her already, go over to Instagram at the Six Figure CRNA to follow her and join her with the others of her followers on Instagram on cheering her on her challenge to pay off her remaining $100,000 of debt in 12 months.
So all my Instagram followers know that I'm giving myself 12 months to pay this off.
Lesson number 1.
Crystal dug herself into debt the way that many people do. It's often not intentional, but it adds up fast.
Mentally, I just wasn't in a good headspace. I was very sad. I was very depressed. My mother had died. I was 500 miles away from my family, and it was really hard for me. So at the time, I was dating this guy, and he broke up with me, so I decided to do travel nursing. And traveling was great. Back then, they paid for your housing, and all you had to essentially do was go to work. So I didn't have any bills really back then. And that's kind of when it all started going downhill.
But don't beat yourself up about it. Just like Crystal did, you can find your way out of debt. You didn't get into debt overnight, so don't expect to get out of it overnight.
Lesson number 2.
Crystal often helps people with their budgets, and in helping them, she often finds, like I do, that people usually have more money than they think to help them towards their financial goals.
I do budgets for people now, and a lot of people have much more money than they think they do at the end of each month. And I just I can look at the numbers for the most part. I've yet to have anybody's budget that I've done and I say, ooh, I don't know what you're going to do. Everybody, 100% of the time, they have more money than they think they do. I just tell it where to go.
Lesson number 3.
Using all the techniques Crystal used to pay off her debt, she was able to basically live way below her means. Therefore, once her debt is done, she is going to be balling out of control.
I've gotten my cost of living so low that essentially I only have to work like 3 days a month just to live, if that makes sense. Everything else goes towards student loan debt, and then once that's paid, everything else will go wherever I want it to go. I make well over $200,000 a year, and I live off about $40,000 a year.
Hey guys, I'm super excited to announce that I'll be speaking at the first annual Financial Freedom Summit, and I want to meet you there. It's going down May 1st through 3rd, 2020 in St. Louis. So if you're ready to kick your finances in gear, the mission of the summit is simple: to help you reach the next level in your financial journey, no matter where you are. Whether you're thousands in debt, building your first budget, saving 6 months of expenses, or close to financial independence, there's something for you at this event. What's even better is that there'll be 50 plus other financial experts for you to learn from, including my finance besties, Jamila from Journey to Launch and Kirsten and Julian from Rich and Regular. There'll be experts covering nearly every personal finance topic. This is your chance to connect with thousands of other people who have the same interests, goals, and philosophies as you. Not just that, but I'd love to meet you as well. So tickets are going fast, meaning that prices are going to increase soon. I want to make sure you get the biggest bang for your buck. Better yet, you can use a special discount code to get an even lower price. So use FREEDOM at checkout for 20% off your ticket. That's FREEDOM at checkout. Seriously, y'all, I think this event is going to be life-changing for so many people. I'm super honored to be part of it. So for more information on the first annual Financial Freedom Summit, click the link in the show notes and don't forget to use the code FREEDOM at checkout.
You've been listening to Nurses on Fire. If you want to learn more about me or my guests, check out our show notes page. If you found value, please support our show by supporting our sponsors and affiliate, also listed in the show notes. If you like what you're hearing, we'd love for you to give us a 5-star rating and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, Google, or whatever podcast app you're using to stream this show. You guys, tell all the nurses in your life to subscribe. And if you know a nurse with a compelling money story and would like me to feature them, shoot me an email at Naseema@financiallyintentional.com. All right, y'all. Much love and keep them fires blazing.
Thank you for listening to my mommy's podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye. Bye.